Making the difficulty jump from daring to unfair. Some of the early things you'll notice is some of the encounters have mechanics that you might not have ever seen. I didn't notice this until this run, and I've been playing unfair since August, is that certain enemies can get massive power creeps to their base damage based on certain other enemy abilities. So the first fight on Rykad Starport, for me, is the hardest encounter in Act 1, and the only safe archetype here is Warrior, because the rest of your companions can either get one shot or potentially have run-ending traumas with no ways to heal them until you've got to the command bunker, which is pretty much towards the end of Act 1. Some people will actually try to do this encounter by hiding their entire retinue outside of combat, never engaging them. I have even seen disgusting little tactics of people creating mercenaries just for this encounter and having multiple officers to just move around multiple warriors with move, move, move and bring it down so they can keep the officers out of the fight and in cover whilst the warriors clear the encounter. Which, how you're planning to do the rest of the encounter, I never know. Now, there are a few strategies you can do here. What is important is you look for this enemy I'm going to show you called the Rebel Agitator. If you can kill this guy before he uses the buff, the enemies in this encounter will do no damage. If you can't kill him before he does his buff, you're going to want to rush him down. There are a couple of strategies for this. The first one is if you have multiple operatives, you can have multiple sniper rifles try to take him out before combat. I only have one operative, which is Idrib, so I didn't make an operative. If you made an operative, you have 2 more sniper rifles. The other strategy is with a shotgun, having Argenta rush as quickly as possible to try and knock down this guy, because a knockdown on a shotgun will actually stun him. However, I have been unlucky in turn order, so I'm going to show you a worst case scenario, which is you didn't manage to kill him with that opening sniper shot, and he's going to get to use his buff before you get to act. This is ultimately the worst possible case scenario in this encounter. So what I've done is I've put Ablard out in the open because he has clenched teeth, so that means his early shots not going to take much damage. But here we go. So he's just applied this buff now, and what this does is it adds 10 base damage to all enemies. So this can ramp up very quickly, and like I said, if you're not using a warrior and using stuff like Endure and building up your deflection, or even using Clenched Teeth, it can get you traumas that can cripple your whole run. So now every single enemy, including the swarm enemies, are going to have plus 10 base damage. On a burst fire, that means they can do 45 plus damage and one shot or permanently cripple certain members of your team. He's also buffed up some of the gunners, so they would be able to cross-map. So you're going to want to kill the guy that he buffed first. If you have DLC 1, Cabela can be very good for rushing them down. If you don't, you just got to try and get in there and do the best that you can. So as you can see, I'm moving Argenta up here. Cover's going to be important. I'm also going to be trying to use grenades to do as much as I can. You could possibly use poison or knockback, which won't be guaranteed to kill, but a knockback could be quite good. Being able to just get as much damage out as possible as you can, you're going to want to do that to try and clear this encounter. I'm also using the guns that I picked up in Urak, which can give us a lot of burst fire here. The best route I found is Urak, the prison, and then coming to Rykad when you're playing an unfair. But see, look, he hit one of his own allies there for 11 damage. If that hit Argenta, she might have got a trauma that could have just taken her out. And this enemy up here just ran over, and with Raging Woe, which is the buff, did an extra 9 plus base damage. Luckily, I didn't pick up a trauma. If I picked up a trauma here, I might as well just restart my run, because otherwise I could have a companion that's permanently got a debuff that's going to make her unusable in this next section of the game. So what I'm going to do is I'm using Ablard to move up here. I'm actually going to use him to heal Argenta to try and get rid of that trauma, so the injury, so she doesn't pick up a trauma. I can't rush up Ablard, unfortunately, because of the position of this enemy, but I am going to try to knock him back so I can get my movement up to there, because I want to take out that Agitator before he has a chance to put out more buffs. Unfortunately, Ablard got parried. Yes, this enemy down over here, that's the one that you need to prioritize killing. Because, yeah, he stacks up too many buffs, everyone's getting one shot. You don't need to do cheesy stuff where you fight from outside the encounter. But, unfortunately, I just got XCOM'd where 72% chance to hit missed. So, I can get to Argenta, and I can use some buffs on her, and I'm going to bring it down to her because her rate of fire is going to be quite good. And her shotgun's going to be ideal for knocking back. And because I have Blast Wave with DLC, I get an extra 3 cells knockback even if I miss. So that's just guaranteed damage. Now, I am using my custom Subductor, which is my rogue trader. This is the one that I'm using in all these videos because it's one of the new classes. So if this is your first one on Unfair, I do recommend this warrior type build. Because as you can see, I can very easily rush up to some good 20 damage there, and then I've got the shield bash, you get the shield starting in the act. Then I can taunt the enemies to try and pull aggro, and because I have all the warrior defensive talents, I'm going to be very unlikely to pull traumas. This is the point with Kibella as well. If you are using her, Blood Rush, which is you're going to use on Blood Oath to guarantee hits and also get movement, be very careful of multiple uses before you heal, because that can generate injuries and even worse, traumas. And picking up early traumas on Kibella before she's gone into Executioner will cripple her use for the act. The other good thing about using the high rate of fire burst fire weapons is they're guaranteed hits as long as it goes on the correct path of trajectory. I will do a whole guide on recoil later, but basically burst fire always hits. High recoil means it won't go down the central line. So if you spray into groups of enemies, you are guaranteed to hit every single shot if there's people in across the 3 cells. But they can still dodge. Abelard is not having a good time here. He is missing everything. But that knockback, woof. Well, we finally managed to land a shot with Idira. The reason I use Sniper Idira early is, again, you don't, before you have the Cyber Raven, Cyber Raven. Before having her use some of her stuff, you don't want her to explode because, summoning a Warp Demon or Tremors that knock down your party, also really bad, and picking up all those traumas on her, again, could potentially be a run-ender. So the last few enemies are now down to here. You can see them on the right here, so we're going to try and burst them down. We are saving the finest hour for Abelard because he is going to be the safest person to move out of cover, because there's not much cover to actually get you to these enemies. So I'm going to use him to take off a single hit on this chap. By the looks of it, I'm not going to be able to make moving up, and he's not got the shield, so Endure could be good, but what I will do is I'm moving him up and using Endure to be the sort of frontline distraction, so they shoot him, not my backline squishies. Because that's the most important thing in this encounter, is winning, but also not having your squishies accumulate traumas, and I don't want to spend 10 turns hiding outside of the map, just sending in one warrior to clear up the game, because even with the 10 base damage boost, they can't damage a good defensively built warrior that's also using Endure. If they attack you before you get Endure, they can still one-shot you if you don't have clenched teeth. But yeah, if you have hardened scars and stuff like that, they're very easy to take the damage. But hopefully this will help you get through this encounter.